Okay, Algebra 1, I am on page 699. This is example 3, and below it I have guided practice 3A, so let's go ahead and get started. You can see we have monomials, just like yesterday, in fractions, being divided. Okay, so quick reminder, when we divide fractions, we flip and multiply, right? We times by the reciprocal. So I'm going to go ahead and change this into a multiplication problem, and I'm going to change this fraction to the reciprocal. Okay, remember, dividing is timesing by the reciprocal, which is flipping the fraction. Now, just like yesterday, remember when we times fractions, it's like we just have one giant fraction bar here. Okay, right? So we have like 4 times 25n and 15n cubed times 12. And of course, we can go ahead and times those things and reduce. But if you remember from yesterday's video, we can cross cancel stuff, or we can just cancel in general. So let's go ahead and look. 25 and 15 both are divisible by 5. So if we divide 25 by 5, we end up with a 5. If we divide 15 by 5, we end up with a 3. The same can be said for 4 and 12, right? So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. And let's look at our variables. I have a 1n on top. I have 3 down here, right? So 3 minus 1 is 2, and I want you to think where your answer should go. If there's 2 n's, should it go on top or bottom? It should go on the bottom because 3 is larger than 1. So I have n squared on the bottom. And let's look. Let's times our numbers now. 1 times 5 is 5. And 3 times 3 is 9. So it looks like our answer is 5 over 9 n squared. Okay, remember we're canceling things as soon as we see them. All right, so let's go down to guided practice 3A. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to multiplication, and I'm going to flip this. Remember, we're multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, we're multiplying by the reciprocal. And I'm going to make one big fraction. Let's start canceling stuff here. So let's start with the numbers. I see a 15 and 5 again. Let's divide these both by 5, that's 3, and that one's just a 1. And then the 4 and the 8 can be divided by 4. This is 2, and that's a 1. Okay, so 3 times 2 is 6, and 1 times 1 is 1, but I don't need to put a 1 on the bottom of my answer. Let's kind of reduce our variables now. Okay, so I've got 3 x's and I've got 1 x, so 3 minus 1 is 2, and it will go on top because 3 is larger than the 1. Right, so x squared goes on the top. I also have y squared. I have y squared and a y, so 2 minus 1 is 1, and that also goes on top. So if you see that nothing else, right, if you see that nothing else is on the bottom, right, we've literally canceled everything else. It's just over 1 still, right, because it was 1 times 1 down here. Right, you guys see that? So we just leave it as 1, which means we can write our answer as 6x squared times y, and that would be our answer for 3A. So a lot of times the fraction bars will disappear, and you'll be left with a monomial that looks like this. Okay, so those are pretty simple ones as monomial division. Let's go over to the next page, which you'll see example 4, and it has 2 parts. It's got an A and a B, which I have here as well. And now you can see, now we have some binomials, right? We have a binomial here, we have a binomial here. So the first thing we're going to do is flip and multiply, right? Because it's still division. So right now this is x plus 3 over 1, right? Like it's over 1 here. So the reciprocal of that would be 1 over x plus 3. Okay, so we're just going to switch it that way. We'll make it times. And when it's times, I'm going to make a giant fraction here. Now the next thing is, guys, I want to look at all of our parts, right? So we still got 4 parts, these 2 and these 2, okay? These 2 here and these 2 right here. So what I want you to do is think about how we can expand those, how we can factor them, how we can make them more simple. All right, so let's look at this one. Is there a greatest common factor in this binomial? Yeah, it's 2, right? So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 and then parentheses x plus 3, right? 2 times 3 would give us 6 over here. And I know that x squared can't really be factored, but I'm going to write it as x times x, okay? Because maybe there's an x we can cancel. Okay, so now you can see that we have an x plus 3 here and an x plus 3 here. All right, so let's times our numbers. 2 times 1 is 2. And then we just have a 1 down here times x and x. So we can't actually cancel those x's. I thought maybe we could cancel one of the x's with something, but there wasn't one. So we just leave it as x squared. So it looks like our answer is 2 over x squared. Reminder, when you have binomials and trinomials, you're going to look to factor first, and if you can't factor, then just proceed. Okay, so we'll try to factor everything first. All right, guys. So this is part B. Okay, we're going to flip and multiply. Right, because it's division. So I'm going to cross this out, and I'm going to say a plus 1 over a plus 5. There's the flip. Make this multiplication. All right, so we got 4 things, right? These two can't be reduced, that one can't, but this one looks like it can be factored. I think there's a greatest common factor, which is 4. I can rewrite this one. I'm going to cross this out and write it as 4, a plus 1. Remember, if you distribute it backwards, then it should give us what we started with. So 4 times a is 4a, and 4 times 1 is the 4. Okay, so let's look to cancel some things out. I think that a plus 1 cancels here and here. So do you see how there's an a minus 2 and an a plus 5? 2 different binomials, but they don't cancel, so we're going to leave them where they're at. I'm going to write my a minus 2 on top over, don't forget I have a 4 here, so I'm going to write 4 parenthesis a plus 5 on bottom. All right? And that is how this problem simplifies. Okay. If you have any questions, please let me know. All right. Sorry, that got out of the screen there. I'd like you to try a couple of problems for me, guys. I want to go to page 701. Okay. Let's go to page 701. And let's try numbers 23, 25, and 27. Remember, try to factor first. Try to expand it first, and then start canceling. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments. Otherwise, good luck.